Part 59. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 581. The people in the living room all looked at Muzi in astonishment. Duan Yuhui even suspected that he had heard it wrong. What did you say? He asked in disbelief. Muzi walked back and said with a smile, Madame Duan wants to see me. How can that be? Duan Yuhui looked at Muzi again. Did his wife know Muzi? Impossible. Muzi is an ordinary middle school student who has no relationship with his wife at all. What's more, so what if we know each other? He invited all his wife's natal family to be lobbyists, wouldn't they be rejected as well? The butler frowned suspiciously, and muttered, Are you sure you heard me right? She didn't believe Muzi's words, and suspected that Muzi had misheard what Madame meant. Muzi ignored her, and smiled at Duan Yuhui, Judge Duan, then I'll go there first. Muzi ignored the weird expressions on these people's faces, turned around and walked out the door. Duan Yuhui followed immediately. Yu Yang and Zhuangjie looked at each other and followed. The housekeeper was full of suspicion, the governess also felt strange, and other servants who heard about it, whether intentionally or not, they all gathered together to watch the excitement. The gate of that house has been closed for almost 4 months. Countless people came to visit, but they couldn't see Mrs. Duan, and even Mrs. Duan's parents came, but it didn't help. Now, Muzi said that Mrs. Duan wanted to see her? How can that be? Muzi turned a blind eye to everyone's curious scrutiny. She calmly walked to the steps beside the tulip flower garden, went all the way down, and then continued to move forward, directly to the door of the house where Mrs. Duan lived. Muzi tapped lightly on the white oak door. Mrs. Duan, she called. Then, the door opened. It was opened immediately, without a trace of hesitation. Mrs. Duan was wearing simple and soft home clothes, standing behind the door. When she saw Muzi, a faint smile appeared on her face. But the housekeeper's expression seemed to be alive. Madame opened the door. Mrs. Duan, who locked herself away for 4 months, who didn't allow anyone to get close to her, and who would even shoot a gun if someone broke in by force. She opened the door so easily. King Gluo. Duan Yuhui murmured in surprise, looking straight there. Mrs. Duan's name is Xiang King Gluo. Duan Yuhui hadn't seen her so clearly for a long time. Even if he tried his best to take a look at the child, his wife would only hold the child to the window, her eyes full of vigilance and distrust. But now, his wife opened the door and smiled. Duan Yuhui immediately knew that the female student Yu Yang brought was not simple. Duan Yuhui looked at Muzi again. Because of the shock, he looked cautiously. Muzi is very beautiful, her skin is white and delicate, her eyes are bright and clear. Wearing a school uniform, she gives people a very fresh and pure feeling, and if you look closely, it will be a bit amazing, but no matter how you look at it, you can't see anything unusual. It's not right, if it is unusual, it is that Muzi's facial features are very similar to that friend in his memory. If that friend had a daughter, maybe this is what she should look like. Duan Yuhui thought to himself, if you have a chance another day, you must ask him. Just thinking like this, Muzi over there has already entered the house. Madame Duan closed the door again, blocking everyone's sight. Muzi went in just like that. Duan Yuhui once wanted to go in, Madame Duan shot in anger, but now, she invited Muzi into the house. People outside, you look at me, I look at you, and look at each other. It is unclear why Mrs. Duan treats Muzi differently. They gathered by the tulip flower bed, neither daring to approach nor to leave, they could only wait silently, waiting for Muzi to come out, so as to ask her what kind of magic was used to make Duan, who had been closed for 4 months. The lady opened the door and came out. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 582. Once the mentality becomes anxious, the time seems to be particularly long. Duan Yuhui was restless, took out a cigarette from his arms, and lit it for himself. He took a puff of the cigarette, and vaguely heard laughter coming from the room. His fingers trembled, and the ash immediately fell down. This laughter is both strange and familiar. Duan Yuhui's expression froze for a moment. His wife has been depressed for nearly 2 years. How long has it been since he heard her laugh? Duan Yuhui stared blankly at the house, with urgency in his eyes, wishing he could see directly into the house, so as to see clearly what Mu Zi and Mrs. Duan were talking about and what they were doing. At this time, the white door finally opened again. Mrs. Duan carried the child and sent Mu Zi out. The 5-month-old baby was white and chubby, and Madame Duan held up her fleshy little hand and waved to Musa to say goodbye. Duan Yuhui suddenly saw his wife and daughter, his eyes felt hot, and his heart was sore and uncomfortable. Clearly living together, but the husband and wife cannot be reunited, and have to endure the separation of flesh and blood. It is too painful. He heard Mu Zi say to Mrs. Duan, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it for you within 2 days." Afterwards, Mrs. Duan returned to the house with the child in her arms, and the door was closed tightly again. Even if Duan Yuhui's character is restrained and prudent, he couldn't hold back his curiosity at the moment, and asked Mu Zi, "What did you say to her? Why did she want to see you? What did she ask you to do?" A series of questioning. Not long ago, he was coldly and arrogantly issuing orders to chase away guests, but now he is pressing Mu Zi eagerly. The housekeeper froze in shock. The tutor's eyes kept on shuttling over Mu Zi's body. Everyone was amazed. They stared at Mu Zi without blinking, waiting for Mu Zi to reveal the answer. "I just went in to check on the baby," Musa said with a smile. Mrs. Duan took good care of the baby. "I hugged it, and it was quite heavy. She even had a baby." Even Mr. Duan, he only hugged his wife a few times during her confinement period. After returning home, Mrs. Duan never let anyone get close to the child. "What did you say?" Duan Yuhui was puzzled. "Did she say how to bring the child out?" "Mr. Duan, as I said just now, I want to help your wife very much, but the way of helping may make you feel uncomfortable." Musa smiled faintly. "After 2 days, I will finish the matter for your wife. You'll know what we've talked about." Everyone was waiting for Mu Zi to reveal the answer, but she played tricks at this moment. The female governess was displeased, and immediately said contemptuously, "What do you mean? Showing off the mystery, are you looking for some advantage? Our Mr. Duan is a judge, so we won't accept your tricks." Mu Zi looked at her and said with a smile, "I just found out that you are Mr. Duan's tutor. Don't you need to teach the young master? You followed me eagerly, and you want to teach Mr. Duan how to deal with it?" The governess choked suddenly, embarrassed and angry. She followed over out of curiosity and ignored the young master upstairs. This is an indisputable fact and cannot be refuted. Mu Zi had no intention of arguing with the tutor. Today's goal has been achieved. She bid farewell to Duan Yuhui. Duan Yuhui looked at her deeply, and said meaningfully, "If you want to take the road of justice, it's good to be articulate, but if you have sharp teeth, you will only be hated by others." "It seems that Mr. Duan hates me very much." Musa's smile didn't decrease by half. "Fortunately, your wife likes me very much." Duan Yuhui was blocked for words, frowned, and watched Mu Zi, Yu Yang, and others leave with cold eyes. After leaving Duan's house and getting into Yu Yang's car, Zhuangjie couldn't hold back her curiosity, and asked Mu Zi, "Tell me quickly. Why is Mrs. Duan willing to see you? What did you talk about?" "Actually, it's nothing. I just told her that I know Mr. Fuchu." Mu Zi said. Zhuangjie was confused and couldn't understand, but Yu Yang in the driver's seat laughed softly and gave Mu Zi a thumbs up. "Hi," Yu Yang said. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 583. What's high? What's high? Zhuangjia still didn't understand, so what if I know Fuchajun? Does it have something to do with this matter? Yu Yang shook his head with a smile and started the car. The car drove on the open road. Muzi explained to Zhuangjia, Fuchajun is an advocate of women's rights activities, and he is a good friend with the president of the Women's Rights Protection Federation, and there are many cooperative projects, like the case of the Duan family. It's useless to ask the police, you have to ask the Women's Federation for help. As Muzi said, she smiled lightly, and continued, so, I didn't mean to show off just now, it was really too offending. If I told Judge Duan Yonghui directly, I'm afraid he would spit fire on the spot. Ha! Zhuangjia suddenly realized. Muzi is going to kidnap someone's wife and child, of course she can't tell them, otherwise wouldn't it be a feud? If people from the Women's Federation intervene, I'm afraid they will really get divorced. Zhuangjia thought for a while, then sighed softly, it's good to get a divorce, every day I'm frightened and live on guard, even if I'm not depressed, it will become true depression, and as long as they get divorced, the murderer hiding in Duan's house should not be able to harm Ms. Duan's children. How is your investigation today? Yu Yang, who was driving ahead, asked. It's okay. The smile on Muzi's face faded. I have a candidate in my mind, but I need time to verify it. The most important thing right now is to help Ms. Duan transfer as soon as possible, and we can't let her stay with the child anymore. In that kind of place, even if the murderer doesn't continue to commit crimes, Ms. Duan's spirit will collapse sooner or later. A smile appeared on Yu Yang's poker face, and he glanced at Muzi from the rearview mirror with appreciation in his eyes. Good job, it's not in vain that I helped you fight for so long, he said with a smile. It seems that when you enter the procuratorate, I have to be ready to rob people. When assigning interns, prosecutors can prioritize the selection of interns through some internal relationships. If they can get an excellent intern assistant, they can greatly improve their work efficiency. Yu Yanghui said this, obviously affirming that Muzi is a good seedling. It's just that Suzi, who once took him with him, feels complicated at the moment. Zhuangjia immediately asked, who is the murderer? I can't say yet. Muzi smiled apologetically, there is no evidence, it's purely my personal speculation, and I still need some evidence to confirm it is that person. You can tell me if it's just speculation, and I promise not to tell it. Zhuangjia was extremely curious. Muzi said helplessly, there is no evidence to accuse, it's too childish to say it, if I guess wrong, I will regret my irresponsible words and deeds every day in the future. Zhuangjia leaned back depressed, and shouted, this is too uncomfortable. Who killed Ms. Duan's child, alas? I really want to know. It won't take long, Muzi said, you will know soon, at most 1 month. It will take a long time. Zhuangjia looked at Muzi resentfully, Zizi, just tell me, otherwise I will suffer from insomnia. It's useless for me to tell you now. Muzi smiled, maybe I guessed wrong. In the end, the murderer wasn't that person, so you're really going to suffer from insomnia. Seeing that Muzi refused to give an answer, Zhuangjia was very depressed and sighed in the car along the way. Yu Yang drove Zhuangjia home first, and then sent Muzi back. Before Muzi got out of the car, Yu Yang called her to stop and asked, does Ms. Duan know who is going to harm her? Muzi nodded, she knows, that's why she's so afraid. Yu Yang pondered for a moment, and then said goodbye to Muzi, thank you today, we will meet again when people from the Women's Federation come forward. By then, the truth should be revealed. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 584. Back at Mu's house, just a few steps away, Muzi met Mu Zhenning by the fountain in the vestibule. She ignored him, but Mu Zhenning had something to say. Isn't that Yu Yang? Mu Zhenning said, I remember that he was your assistant in the past. It seems that you have lived a new life and lived a very chic life. Zhang Ci, Yu Yang, all came back, are you going to take the prosecutor's path again? There was no expression on his face, and his tone was flat, but for some reason, Muzi felt a little harsh. Mu Zhenning raised the corners of his mouth and smiled, you want to get back all the people and things from the past, except me, don't you? Heh, what kind of ecstasy did Murong Chen give you? Muzi pursed her lips tightly, and walked past him indifferently. She really didn't want to talk about this with Mu Zhenning. The end result was nothing more than a big quarrel between the two of them, and each other became ugly. Why bother? Do you know why I got engaged to Qiao Jingjia? Mu Zhenning suddenly raised his voice and asked. Muzi stopped walking and didn't look back. She slowly took a breath, calmed down, and her voice was as still water. I'm not interested in why you two got engaged, but it's not hard to guess. Back then, it was unavoidable that we were not happy when we sneaked together. Now that my wife is dead, isn't it just right? Do you want to give Xi and Juantan a seat? Mu Zhenning said, I'm here to investigate the cause of your death. Muzi didn't answer, and walked away. Mu Zhenning said unwillingly behind her, one day you will understand. I didn't harm you. Muzi felt that Mu Zhenning didn't understand at all. Maybe he didn't understand, but he was deliberately avoiding the fact that she parted ways with him not because she suspected that Mu Zhenning had killed her, but because she didn't love him. It's weird to love this thing. When you don't love, you will be picky, such as houses, cars, money, from family background to appearance, from work to future planning, and even hobbies, there are countless requirements. But once you fall in love, there is no dignity, no principle, and a complete compromise. Even if the other party stabs you, you will help the other party find a reason, thinking that the other party must have difficulties. Muzi's current feeling towards Mu Zhenning is that she is very picky. This kind of pickiness was not because she was mean and stingy, but because she had given all her love and tolerance to Murong Chen, so she couldn't bear it when facing Mu Zhenning. She couldn't find the reason and position to bear it. Mu Zhenning watched Muzi gradually walk away, the haze in the bottom of his eyes piled up, accumulating a storm. He went back to the house in silence and went to his study. Qiao Jingjia was cleaning the house. Recently, her temperament seems to have changed drastically, she is 100 times more gentle and considerate than before, virtuous to a humble level. She knelt on the ground and wiped the floor meticulously. The furniture, tables, and chairs were also wiped bright and shiny, giving them a brand new look. Even the crystal ashtray on the table was extremely clean and bright. You don't need to do this, let a servant do it next time. Mu Zhenning walked in indifferently, and landed on the floor that had just been wiped, leaving deep and shallow shoe prints. Qiao Jingjia placed her position very low, and said cautiously, I was too wrong before, and I want to do something, to make myself feel at ease. Her appearance is very pitiful, and it is easy to arouse the pity of men. Mu Zhenning looked at her coldly for a while, didn't say anything, with a look of boredom between his brows, and casually took out a cigarette from the cigarette case. Qiao Jingjia picked up the lighter on the table and lit it for him. The light orange flame flickered among the tobacco, slowly burning thin smoke, lingering endlessly. At this time, Mu Zhenning took out another cigarette, stuffed it into Qiao Jingjia's mouth, and then lit the cigarette in his own mouth for her. Qiao Jingjia was stunned with a cigarette in her mouth. Mu Zhenning exhaled smoke at her, and said flatly, Jingjia, stay with me for a while. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 585. Xiao Jingjia stared at Mu Zhenning in a daze. Since she moved into Mu's house, why did Mu Zhenning give her a good face? She put on the most humble and pitiful appearance, like a stray dog came to Mu's house and wagged her tail to beg for mercy. Although Mu Zhenning took her in, he always treated her indifferently. Mu Zhenning actually asked her to accompany him today? Xiao Jingjia was very surprised. Could it be that her low self-esteem and smallness during this period of time played a role? Has he finally softened his heart? Either way, it's a good thing, at least her efforts were not in vain. Xiao Jingjia lowered her eyes calmly, and took 2 puffs of the cigarette in her mouth. The strength of the cigarette was a bit strong. She was smoking a cigarette, her head was a little dizzy, and after she was dizzy, she was a little ecstatic, and her limbs felt indescribably comfortable. She was vigilant in her heart immediately. After being vigilant for a moment, she thought again, just smoke one, it's fine. If you don't smoke, if it arouses his suspicion, all previous efforts will be wasted. With various thoughts in mind, Xiao Jingjia stayed in the study and smoked a cigarette with Mu Zhenning. The time for a cigarette is neither long nor short. In the study room filled with clouds and mist, Xiao Jingjia's mood rose a little bit, and she felt that this was a sign that her hard work was rewarding. Sure enough, after smoking, Mu Zhenning seemed to be in a good mood. He threw her a credit card and said, "Don't be bored at home and work every day. Go out shopping occasionally and buy some beautiful clothes." Xiao Jingjia was so happy that she almost laughed out loud. She wasn't secretly delighted by this little favor, but excited by the loosening of Mu Zhenning's attitude. No need. Xiao Jingjia tried her best to suppress the raised corners of her lips, and didn't answer the card. "I don't really want to go out, stay at home and do something, and I don't feel bored." Mu Zhenning looked at her with a half smile, and said, "Take it, what's the point of staying at home every day, and you're getting engaged soon, you always need to buy some new clothes and jewelry." Speaking of this, Xiao Jingjia couldn't refuse, and besides, she really needed money. Xiao Jingjia left the study with her credit card, and met Xiao Wanwan, who was walking towards her. She immediately darkened her face, pulled Xiao Wanwan aside, and said in a low voice, "Why are you here again? Didn't I say it, don't come so often?" Xiao Wanwan said nonchalantly, "Why are you nervous? If I don't come, who will help you stabilize Mu Zhenning? I told him at the beginning that he is engaged to you, and I will help him get the words out of your mouth." As she said that, she pursed her lips and smiled, and continued in a soft voice, "Besides, don't I have to deliver the goods to you? Hey, do you have any money? Bring it for flowers. I bought high-end goods for you this time, and the effect is better than that the old one was better." Xiao Jingjia's face was slightly pale, and her eyes widened. "Are you crazy? We agreed to proceed step by step. What if he becomes suspicious?" "Don't worry, I know what's in my mind, be more energetic and get addicted," Xiao Wanwan said. "We don't have much time, do you think he really wants to get engaged to you? It's been a long time, and someday he will be impatient. It's all in vain." Xiao Jingjia curled her lips and said nothing, a little disapproving. She felt that Mu Zhenning still had some affection for her, but it was only because she was too disappointed with what she had done before. As long as she behaves well in the future, she will definitely be able to win back his heart. Xiao Wanwan went to Mu Zhenning's study, and according to the agreement, she told Mu Zhenning the news she got from Xiao Jingjia recently. "The psychiatrist that Jingjia recommended to you at the beginning was expensive. As Jingjia, it is difficult to get in touch with such people, so there must be someone behind the arrangements. Moreover, I heard that the psychiatrist is especially good at hypnosis. Yours, the treatment process is actually a hypnotic process again and again." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 586. Xiao Wanwan was delaying time, and the news she gave was neither painful nor itchy. Even without Jiao Jingjia, Mu Zhenning could find out. Mu Zhenning said lightly, ask more about the buyer. Then let Xiao Wanwan go out. Before leaving, Xiao Wanwan glanced at the cigarette case on the table from the corner of her eye, and seeing that there were not many cigarettes left in it, she felt proud and left the study with a smile. Xiao Wanwan and Jiao Jingjia went shopping together, buying clothes and jewelry. Jiao Jingjia took out a lot of cash from the credit card and gave Xiao Wanwan flowers. Probably because of the common goal, the relationship between the mother and daughter has eased a lot recently, and they are both in a good mood. They bought a lot of luxury goods, dressed up like ladies and noble ladies, and went to eat at the most upscale Western restaurant in Xinjiang City. After dinner, I went to the beauty parlor for skincare and maintenance, and enjoyed myself until the evening. Xiao Wanwan asked the two beauticians to go out and lock the door. In the exquisitely decorated room, only the mother and daughter were left. Xiao Wanwan took out a small bottle of powder and a set of syringe tools from her bag. Take it out, she said. Jiao Jingjia also rummaged through her bag and took out a pack of cigarettes. This is the cigarette that Mu Zhenning prepared at home, and the outer packaging has been opened. A pack of 20 cigarettes was neatly placed in front of them. Xiao Wanwan first poured a little water into the bottle, mixed it evenly, sucked it into the syringe, and then injected it into the shredded tobacco one by one. Each injects a little bit, and 20 inject the whole solution just in time. The cigarettes have become a bit damp, and there is a hairdryer in the beauty salon, and it will become dry again after a few minutes of blowing on the hot air gear. After drying, there will be small wrinkles in some places on the surface of the cigarette, but as long as you don't look closely, the appearance is exactly the same as before. During this time, they used this method to tamper with Mu Zhenning's cigarettes. Mu Zhenning used to smoke very little, but recently he has become depressed and his addiction to smoking is getting bigger and bigger, and he can't leave his cigarette every day. Xiao Wanwan has touched this kind of thing before, knows its beauty, and also knows its cruelty. Countless families are torn apart because of it, and Xiao Wanwan pins her hope on it, so that Mu Zhenning will be obedient to their mother and daughter. She never expected that Mu Zhenning would really marry Jiao Jingjia. All along, she was the one who hung Mu Zhenning's appetite, and Mu Zhenning hung Jiao Jingjia's appetite. It's just that Jiao Jingjia is naive occasionally, mistakenly thinking that she is so charming that she can charm Mu Zhenning. What is a man, doesn't she know? Xiao Wanwan has come into contact with too many men, and she is well versed in them. This time the purity is higher. If he feels uncomfortable, coax him to drink a few glasses of wine. Xiao Wanwan put the cigarettes back one by one and sealed them again. After finishing this, she looked up to see Jiao Jingjia was in a daze. Jingjia, Xiao Wanwan frowned. Ah, Jiao Jingjia came back to her senses, and after realizing it, she lowered her head and put the pack of cigarettes back in her bag. You don't know how to smoke too, do you? Xiao Wanwan's eyes suddenly turned sharp. I told you, don't smoke this thing. Understood, I know it well, Jiao Jingjia said perfunctorily. Jiao Jingjia and Xiao Wanwan's plan progressed silently, maybe because they didn't provoke Mu Zi this time, everything went very smoothly. Mu Zi is also carrying out her plan. After school, she went to the governor's secretary's house to visit Mrs. Fu. Because of the phone call before, Fu Chajun was already waiting at home, and invited her good friend, the president of the Women's Protection Federation. The federation is willing to help every woman who needs help. As long as the situation is true, we will intervene, Fu Chajun said to Mu Zi. Women's rights are human rights. Basic rights. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 587. The President of the Women's Protection Federation needs to know the basic situation of Mrs. Duan. The problem now is that Duan Yuhui and his family claim that Siang King Glogo suffered from depression and cut off communication with others by himself, not that he restricted Siang King Glogo's personal freedom. Fu Chajun has helped many women and has rich experience in such matters, so he pointed out the key points directly. We must prove that Siang King Glogo was coerced before we can legitimately intervene in this matter. If it can be proved that Siang King Glogo is not suffering from depression, maybe things will be easier to handle, the female president said. Actually, there is no need to prove it. Muzi shook his head. It's useless. No matter how many people say that Siang King Glogo suffers from depression, they are not doctors, and their conclusions about Siang King Glogo's condition are legally untenable. Siang King Glogo did suffer from depression 2 years ago, but she had already stopped the treatment. It can be seen that she has recovered. As for now, they insist that Siang King Glogo has depression, so please show evidence of depression. Kick the ball back and ignore it? Fu Chajun gave Muzi an appreciative look. Muzi said to the two of them, if there is no other way, Siang King Glogo wouldn't lock herself up with her child. She just wanted to protect herself. Just imagine, losing 2 children in succession. Which woman can bear such a blow? Even being considered crazy, she also wanted to protect her 3rd child. Now, she and her child have been living in that place for 4 months. The servants treat her as a lunatic, and her parents say that she was born in a blessed state without being blessed, and her husband doesn't understand at all. She is so poor. She can't last long. Fu Chajun also has children. After becoming a mother, she can't stand such things. She said, it may not matter to keep a baby in the house for a few months, but the child will grow up sooner or later, and needs contact with people and society. We have to help her get out of that ghost place as soon as possible. How did her child disappear? The president asked suspiciously. If necessary, we can apply for legal assistance and collect evidence for investigation. Muzi sighed. I'm afraid it will be difficult. Too much time has passed, there is no evidence, and the servant's confession is also very unfavorable to Siang King Glogo. The first child died of suffocation. During Siang King Glogo's confinement period, she woke up and found the baby lying beside her, not breathing. She remembered that she put the baby in the crib after breastfeeding, but the maid said it was Siang King Glogo fell asleep while breastfeeding, smothering the baby in her arms. Fu Chajun and the president of the federation looked at each other, seeing surprise in each other's eyes. The maid's eloquent words made Siang King Glogo start to wonder if her memory was confused. Because the child was less than a month old and died unexpectedly, the Duan family didn't alert the police and buried her hastily. Later, she became pregnant with her 2nd child. With the lessons learned from last time, after the 2nd delivery, Siang King Glogo spent confinement in the hospital, where there is a special postpartum mother and baby care service, but something happened again after returning home. Having said this, Muzi deliberately stopped, asked the servants for paper and a pen, and sketched roughly the steps of the tulip flower garden on the paper. This is the flower garden of Duan's family. At that time, Siang King Glogo was pushing a baby carriage by here, and suddenly a baseball flew over. She accidentally fell down the stairs while dodging, but at that moment, in order to protect the child, she let go hold the hand on the stroller so the baby doesn't fall with her. Muzi drew a circle on a spot on the paper. She fell on this spot, her head was bleeding, and her right leg was broken. Because she was worried about the child, she forced herself to look up and found the position of the baby carriage on the steps. She was safe and sound, and finally passed out, but, when she woke up from the hospital, she was told that the child fell down with her and died. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 588. Fu Chajun and the president of the federation breathed in together. They all feel terrible. In my own home, without warning or reason, I suddenly lost 2 little lives. Conceived in October, the long-awaited child finally died in the mother's arms for only a few months. This is just too creepy. Why didn't the Duan family call the police? Fu Chajun couldn't help being indignant. Duan Yuhui is a judge himself, can't he see the abnormality of this matter? Maybe the authorities are obsessed with it, or it's an intentional cover-up. Muzi I said, according to Xiang Qingluo, after she fell unconscious, someone took the baby out of the stroller and threw her down the steps to die. Accept this statement, he is a judge, he pays attention to evidence and motivation in everything, he thinks that the servants of the Duan family are very loyal and will not harm his wife and children. What about the baseball? Fu Chajun asked. At least the baseball can prove that Xiang Qingluo didn't fall by herself, but someone wanted to harm her. Muzi I silently shook her head. Fu Chajun understood, didn't you find the baseball? When the servant found out, he immediately called an ambulance to send the adult and the child to the hospital. Muzi sighed, I didn't find a baseball nearby afterwards, and Xiang Qingluo was so stimulated that he spoke incoherently. A psychiatrist, she thought that she might have an escape mentality, because she couldn't face the death of the child, and imagined a murder story, which plunged herself into a kind of morbid panic. The servants of the Duan family also thought that Mrs. Duan was holding the child to watch Tulip accidentally fall and cause the death of the child. Is it possible that she is really sick? The president hesitated. After all, we have no evidence so far. The president of the federation is good friends with Fu Chajun, but he is not familiar with Muzi I, and his trust is limited. Muzi I didn't answer directly, but looked at Fu Chajun, pointed to the flower garden stairs drawn on the paper, and asked, Mrs. Fu, what would you do if you brought your child to such a place? Madame Fu frowned, the stairs are too steep, I should push the stroller and leave directly. Xiang Qingluo thought the same way. She was just passing by at the time and didn't intend to stay there. Muzi I looked at the president of the federation, and continued, our brain has a special area called the anterior cingulate cortex, which can detect subtle changes in the environment and act as an early warning, causing us to have fear or premonition. For example, when we come to this kind of steep stairs, the subconscious will slow down to avoid falling, which is a self-protection mechanism. I specifically asked the servants of the Duan family. This staircase has existed in the Duan family for 6 years. In the past 6 years, except for Mrs. Duan, no one has fallen here. Instead, it is other inconspicuous places in the Duan family. Or trip. Mrs. Duan was carrying a child at the time, so she should be more careful. Even if she was so careless and fell down the steps while holding the child, the final result shouldn't be like this. Muzi I circled 2 places on the paper. The mother's instinct will make her subconsciously hold the child tightly when she falls, but the distance between her and the child is about 2 meters away, which is very unusual. After Muzi I finished speaking, she brought up the last doubt. Not long ago, someone smashed the window of Xiang Qingluo's house with a baseball. At that time, she and her child were basking in the sun by the window. Fortunately, she protected the baby with her body in time. Nothing happened. The president was finally persuaded by her, nodded and said, I will prepare relevant materials immediately after I go back, and the day after tomorrow at the latest, I will arrange a place for her and assist a lawyer. Thank you, Muzi I let out a long sigh of relief. She finally lived up to Mrs. Duan's entrustment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 589. After finishing Madame Duan's affairs, Muzi I was refreshed and relaxed. Fu Chajun and the chairman were very efficient. They went through all the formalities in one day, and took the staff of the legal department 2 days later to Duan's house to take Xiang Qingluo away. After Duan Yuhui learned about it, he immediately rushed home from the procuratorate, but it didn't help. Xiang Qingluo's personal freedom is protected by the Women's Rights Protection Association, and no one can force her to stay unless she voluntarily stays. Duan Yuhui couldn't stop Xiang Qingluo from leaving, so he asked to keep the child, and Xiang Qingluo disagreed even more. The reason why she wanted to leave was because she was afraid that the child would be harmed, so how could she keep the child? Duan Yuhui is the child's biological father. He has a say in the child's fate, but the staff rejected his request on the grounds that the child is breastfeeding and it is better to stay with the mother. The couple is vying for the custody of the child. I am afraid that they will have to fight a divorce lawsuit to decide the outcome. File a lawsuit? Without hesitation, Mu Ziyi recommended Mingjun law firm. Chu Mingjun was flattered. A little bit of petting, but full of surprise. There are 2 kinds of lawsuits, and I never fight them, Chu Mingjun said to Mu Ziyi on the phone. The first one is a lawsuit for intellectual property rights and patent rights. This kind of lawsuit requires extremely high professional knowledge. To do it with ease, the second is to file a divorce lawsuit. Divorce cases are often protracted, and the 2 people will not give in to the other, as if they are fighting hard, and they have to tear the marriage relationship beyond recognition, and they have to stomp a few times before they are reconciled. Especially celebrity divorce cases are even more difficult. Various interest entanglements, various scandals broke out, and the once deep love became a joke, leaving only a ferocious and ugly face in the end. So a divorce lawsuit is a very labor-intensive chore. Chu Mingjun complained to Mu Ziyi. Mu Ziyi was unmoved, and said with a smile, "No, I don't feel relieved to hand this lawsuit over to another law firm." After marrying Xiang Qingluo, she became a full-time wife. Now she has no money and no job, and she even relies on the relief from the Women's Federation for housing. It can be said that it is very difficult to compete with the rich and powerful judge for the custody of the child. Therefore, Mu Ziyi will take care of this matter. She has already helped Xiang Qingluo leave Duan's house. If something goes wrong in the divorce lawsuit and loses the custody of the child, then all the previous efforts will be in vain, all in vain. Don't worry, I will persuade the other party's lawyer to accept mediation. It would be best not to go to court. Mu Ziyi comforted Chu Mingjun. Duan Yuhui is a judge, and he certainly doesn't want his family matters to go to court. Chu Mingjun thought so too. Only when the 2 sides failed to reach an agreement, would they need to go to court to fight. With Mu Ziyi around, why should he worry about it? Okay, I'll prepare first, and I'll contact you when the opposing lawyer makes a move, Chu Mingjun said. Mu Ziyi said yes, and hung up the phone. In the next few days, she went to and from school as usual, and did not pay attention to the affairs of the Duan family. Unexpectedly, Zhuangjie had gossip about the Duan family. That nasty governess of the Duan family has been fired. Zhuangjie was very happy. She had nothing to do with her, but she felt very happy. When Mu Ziyi heard this, she couldn't help being stunned. How could you be dismissed? Could it be that she guessed wrong? Suspicious, suddenly realized something was wrong, Musa looked at Zhuangjie strangely. The Duan family dismissed a governess, how do you know? Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 590. Zhuangjie's gossip mainly comes from her mother's contacts and entertainment weekly news. Mu Ziyi and Zhang Xinyuan didn't pay much attention to this aspect, so they seemed ignorant. But the dismissal of a tutor by the Duan family is not big news. It is impossible for everyone to know about it, and Zhuangjie's mother has nothing to do with the Duan family, so how could Zhuangjie know about the Duan family? Mu Ziyi was puzzled. Zhuangjie smiled and said, Kikai called me and told me. When Duan Saiki was very young, She had her first mobile phone, which was a watch phone for children. Kikai called you, Muzi. I was even more surprised, her expression was even a little stunned. Zhang Xinyuan next to him didn't notice anything unusual, and said with a smile, I can't tell, Zhuangjie, you're quite a child. So, ha ha ha. Zhuangjie laughed. Muzi, I asked, did young Master Duan explain the reason? That tutor was hired by Kikai when she was 5 years old. At that time, Kikai was in the critical period from kindergarten to primary school. Mrs. Duan was depressed and couldn't take care of the children, so Mr. Duan invited her. Zhuangjie explained, Kikai is almost 8 years old now, and has already adapted to primary school life, and he is very smart, so he doesn't need tutoring from a tutor at all. The tutor only has set -4 level of English, which is not much better than Kikai. It's no use staying at Duan's house. It's useless at all. Why didn't you fire before, but why did you fire at this time? Muzi squinted her eyes and stared at Zhuangjie suspiciously. Could it be, you said bad things about her in the middle? Zhuangjie blushed slightly. Don't be like this, do I look like the kind of villain who talks behind my back? Muzi stared at her. Zhuangjie said awkwardly, I really didn't speak ill of her, I just told Kikai, this English, you can find a teacher who is good at oral English, practice more. A tutor who tutors kindergarten children may have a good academic record, but when it comes to oral English, it is definitely not as good as Zhuangjie, an old fritter. Zhuangjie flies abroad several times a year to accompany her mother to participate in various fashion shows. The people she comes into contact with are all foreigners. Not only is she good at speaking, but she can also speak different accents in several states. So, you are Master Duan's speaking teacher now, Muzi asked. Of course not, Zhuangjie shook her head immediately. I can hardly finish my homework. How can I be a tutor for others? I just talk to him occasionally, communicate in foreign languages, and help him correct his pronunciation. After Zhuangjie finished speaking, she couldn't help feeling, Kikai is really the smartest and most sensible child I've ever seen. Hey, think about what I will do when I am 7 or 8 years old. Playing with Barbie dolls. You're playing with Barbie dolls now, Zhang Xinyuan laughed at her. Zhuangjie immediately retorted, isn't that the same? Now I design fashion and accessories for dolls, which is very high-end and full of content. It's all about playing with dolls anyway, Zhang Xinyuan still laughed at her. Muzi was silent at the side, with a serious look on his face for no reason. Zhuangjie and Zhang Xinyuan are still chatting with each other. Zhuangjie said, it would be great if my child is as smart and well-behaved as Kikai in the future. He is simply a talented player and wins at the starting line of life. Oh, yes, he also invited me to play baseball on weekends. He asked you to play baseball, Muzi was surprised. Oh, I know, it's inappropriate to go to Duan's house to play baseball with him, Zhuangjie sighed, but it's so pitiful to see him. His mother died in an accidental car accident. He finally had a stepmother who loves him. Recently, he got divorced. After moving away from home, Mr. Duan was in a hurry to get angry, the servants talked about it every day, no one cared about him as a child, I really couldn't bear to refuse. Muzi felt that this was very strange. She wanted to persuade Zhuangjie not to go, but she couldn't find a suitable reason for her words. I thought, let's see the situation first.